the player doesn't know, but he still looks his Zayu. Sometimes we say 2 main, but he's still looking behind in case one. You're like
2 main doesn't make sense.
No, it's a bit like that. I think just he has such a good individual overview that he's like.
All right, I am joined by 3 of the 4 in-game leaders of the last 4 major winners. So we're missing James, but I don't think he'd be able to say much anyway. Obviously, we have FaZe with karrigan, Antwerp, Apex with Vitality in Paris, and of course NAVI, Aleksib, most recently in Copenhagen. So I feel like we're in good company today. Obviously, me of nothing. I'm going to learn a few things too. Once upon a time, I used to play against you and you a little bit. You weren't not at that time. But yeah, we're going to go way back in the time machine. But gentlemen, thank you for joining me today, and we're going to talk about all things in-game leading. Where this is going to end up, I don't really know. I would like to start though with a little bit of a history lesson, so people at home maybe know when you got into in-game leading. So maybe we start with you, Finn. You've got the longest tenure in that regard.
I actually think I started calling in when I was 15 in smaller Danish teams. Even though I played with people who was 21 and 22, but I just think I had a vision for the game. But over time, I joined the higher ranked teams. So I played on the Arcadian, played a lot of top 2, top 3 teams in Denmark. And then I joined Mouse, played on the B. So there was natural feeling when there was a better IGL than me. I'll just take another role. But I've always been from young age a secondary caller. But also different roles. I've been AWP, I've been lurker, I've been entry fragger. I've played everything in the game basically. So I think over time, after the B in 2011, then I became IGL Fnatic in the end of CS 1.6 when Xray went to NIP. And since that, I've actually been IGL on and off, first year in CSGO, but since TSM, full all in as a leader, and just told myself I'm not going to give that up anymore. Okay,
so quite a long history over 3 different titles now, if we consider CSGO, CS2 to be separate titles. So that's a long history there. Apex, your story is a little bit different. Yeah, you're the most recent in-game leader at the table.
Yeah, actually, I've been IGL really early as well. With my friends and extra with the smaller teams. I think I was in 2009 or 8, something like that, when I started playing CS. I always liked the idea of the tactics and just being a leader or whatever. And then as Finn, I think you get higher in the teams and you don't IGL anymore. And to be honest, I thought about being IGL a bit earlier than because I became IGL in 2020. But with the French scene we had, I think that was already a big mess, as everyone know. It was already going left and right, and people have the power, etc. So if I wanted to go there, it would have been even a bigger mess. So I preferred just stealing some paychecks and staying in the back.
You were entry fragging. You definitely weren't staying in the back.
Yeah, I mean, I was the mid in my teams a bit. But and then, became IGL in 2020 after we kind of benched Alex. And since that last Finn, I mean, I will never give it up. It's not possible anymore. And it's been fun 4 years, I would say.
Okay, a quick 4 years or a long 4 years?
Different. Look at my gray hair. Yeah. That's how stress reacts on myself. But no, it's been a good journey. I mean, actually, as I said a lot of times, but I was entry fragging. I think everyone thought I would be the dumbest, and actually I made it work, and I'm proud of that. Obviously, I was also always been a secondary caller in my teams, like Finn. Always been trying to help with tactics. I mean, going on the server and trying to invent new stuff, etc. So it's always been my thing, but people didn't know about it because they only saw me just doing the crazy entry fragger, just running first and press W until you die. Actually, so yeah.
Okay. Aleksib, what about you? Yours is a little bit different, right? Finnish Counter-Strike in CSGO, there were always teams with NATO and Stonde and those kind of blokes.
Yeah, I never played with those guys, actually.
Disturbed?
No. You never did? Oh yeah, Disturbed.
I mean, I didn't play with NATO. I mean, he was there with ENS, on the staff. But I didn't, they were the playing just before I ever made it or made a name for myself in the Finnish scene. I did play with his ex-teammates though.
Okay.
Like on the 3D Max, really old team who made the major ones. I played with those guys, but basically for me it was just playing with my friends and honestly playing any puck there was and just me telling where to go basically. Like that's where it all started, you know? Like usually when you play with friends, like everybody's having fun, but then you have that someone who really wants to win or, you know, make sure we're going together somewhere. I was doing it and then basically we qualified for Finnish lands with my friends. And then I just really liked the competing and, you know, sometimes you can't really make it work with only your friends. And then I kind of left to other teams who wanted to play a lot and just try to succeed. And then I was playing Finnish lands with a couple different teams. And that's where everything started. And in 2018, we formed ENS. And that's basically how I got my name into the scene of everyone else, you know.
And then from there, in-game leading a whole bunch of international teams.
Yeah, basically. I mean, a couple. I was speaking about it just now with Banks. I remember when I played the Burnley Major. It was the last major with ENS. I knew I was benched before the tournament. We made top 8. And I just remember after that, like, you know, you got kicked from the best Finnish team. And the number 2 team was like way below. So I knew myself that, you know, I don't really want to go to the second team. Like it's very, very hard. Like you don't have those talents. Like we had Sergey, you know, Alu was on his prime opening still. And I was thinking to myself, like, I really need to make the change. Like I really need to go international. My English wasn't as good. You know, I didn't feel like I was there yet. You know, it was the first 2 years first 2 years with ENS. But then basically went to OG with the help of NBK, a good friend. And from that, it's been a lot of different teams and now in NAVI. So.
Yeah.
And NAVI was the last team I would ever think I would join. You know, when they contacted me, I was like,
what the fuck?
What are they doing? What the fuck?
You want me to speak Russian? No.
What's happening over here?
I was thinking like, wait, do they think something? Like, have they heard a rumor?
All right, so you've all got different histories of how you got into it, but I think something seems quite similar when I look at a lot of in-game leaders is like personality types, right? Because I talk to all you guys at different events, and you're all, you know, quite outgoing, easy to have a conversation with. And I did a podcast with Aleksib a while ago, and he was talking about a lot of roles in game, and he thinks that they're obviously, he thinks that some of the roles that people play are personality driven as well, like, you know, entry fraggers.
Of course it is.
But for in-game leaders, like people, you can see some of them, and you reference Alex. I think he might be one that I would look from the outside, and maybe he doesn't feel to me like a leader of men.
He wasn't.
Right, where the 3 of you at the table, I think all of you, if you're in your huddle, you're giving the speech, you command that kind of respect, and you guys fulfill not only the tactical mind of Counter-Strike, but also embody like what you need to be as a leader. So do you put a lot of thought into the way that you kind of outwardly show yourself, or is that just the way you are?
I think, personally, it's the first thing has to be the way you are. You can't be like, you can be IGL, you can become a good IGL without being like made for, but I think being a captain is way different. I think it's a way to be in some way, and it's about the personality. So I think like, as you said before, I think, for example, I'm pretty hyperactive guy, always like getting a bit crazy, etc. So it made sense I was at the entry fragger for a long time, because I couldn't like hold an angle for 50 seconds, you know. I was like getting crazy doing that. So I always needed to move, etc. And when you see like most of the anchors, they are really like, in real life, they're like, yeah, it's fine for them, you know. They're not really hyperactive themselves. So I think, it goes with the personality. But yeah, for the captain, like the leader way, I think it's just the way your personality is, I would say, and I think it's something that, of course, you need to reflect a lot and think about the way you speak to your guys, and if you have like an important talk or whatever. And yeah, I think it's also, I mean, you need to work on it. It's not only instinct.
Sure. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, for me, I think you can be a great IGL, but if you're not a great leader, you need a coach to be a great leader, to be pushing the team in the right direction. I think you can have a really great mind for the game, but in the moment of need, in the moment of heat of the game, a great leader is taking the charge of the team and trying to lead by example and pushing the teammates, right? But I think one of my main issues when I was younger, I was like 21, I was shutting myself down individually. If I had a bad game, I was putting good roles, star, or star, whatever. I could feel sometimes shutting myself down, and I knew down the line, if I need to be a good leader, I can never shut myself down. Now, we're all humans. It is going to happen in a game. You're calling things, people not listening, things are not playing out as you expected, right? And you are going to get frustrated. But I think I learned fast that I need that quality to be a great leader, to make sure that even though it looks really bad, I need to make sure to stay positive and push the guys in the right direction, right? So I kind of developed into being a leader. I don't think it was super natural for me. I always think I had a mind for the game and like doing things structured ways. I'm trying to lead by example, but I think the quality I had to work on the most. And I think I learned that after benching and FaZe, that I wasn't leading the team in the end. I was giving way too much for the players to decide and giving too much room. So I made an active decision when I went to Mouse that I'm going to lead how I want. I need to be the leader that everyone looks to and listens to and respects at any given moment, because when the game is 13-13, they're all going to look to you. But when it's 13-8 and you're in front, they're looking to do things themselves sometimes. And I think that's what I had to learn down the line. And sometimes the hardest lesson is the way you lose or you getting benched, because that's the moment where you can work on the things and kind of put everything in perspective how it went. So I think you can learn the qualities, but it also has to be within your natural field of the person you are.
Sure.
I had the same feeling of like in 2022, just with the first year of the international team with the Danes, I gave too much freedom and wasn't like the guy that made enough decision and didn't believe enough in myself. So obviously, if you are DH and it goes like that, most of the time you're gonna lose. And that was that's also something I told myself. I remember after Rio, I said, okay, no more of that. I don't want to get frustrated after a tournament and like I didn't believe of doing a rush or because I felt it was alone on the right or whatever. And that's something important as well.
Yeah, because I think if we look at the first time when you departed FaZe and then you ended up on that short envious stint, but yeah, well, we don't have to go into the envious stint. That
was rough times.
That was a nice jersey. I loved it back then. But
I had good picture from there.
You helped out North American Counter-Strike. They always need a hand, right?
I met Fury for the first time there. They were annoying to play.
There you go.
Right there.
You got the early lesson. But I think there's something that is true with being the leader and then your players potentially losing the trust or the faith. Right, because I would say that must have happened for you in ENTS as well, right? For them, if they, hey, Aleksib is our leader, we've gone really far with this guy, but we're going to get rid of him. How was there like turning points for both of you when you felt like, oh shit, they've lost the faith, they've lost the belief in what I'm calling, or they're over calling me, or they're not trusting the call that I'm making? Could you actually feel it while in the server?
To be honest, I was way too naive in ENTS, and I've said it previously as well. Like I was super young. And, the team, like it was my dream to make it to any tier 1 event, and once I made it, it was like flying on clouds, all throughout ENTS. We were playing pretty decently and making deep runs. And then once I got benched, I understood like, holy shit, like how did I look at all these kind of different things, like really small things, but you understand in a team environment, like if some of these things happen, it's not a good sign. So like after that, I like learned from it kinda. So basically, all I'm saying is that I could have felt it if I didn't look at it too naively. Like I was like letting it slide or something like that. But after I learned that all the small things you can notice from far away, and that's when you need to have a discussion or you need to speak to a guy one-on-one or something needs to happen. Because if you let it be, down the line, it's going to explode at some point. And then it's too late maybe to fix, like relationships with different players or giving some guy freedom or not leashing one guy like he's doing too much, whatever it might be. So that's one thing I learned kind of, and I think you're completely right. Like it'll happen,
I think one of the things is with the conversations we're having with teammates, right, or staff, it's not easy for people, especially young people, to have those type of conversations, right? To talk about things earnestly and openly. Back in the day, it used to be people losing their minds or losing their temper. The French used to be outside getting drunk off wine, and
some other people fighted each other.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember like the old NAVI guys, like the legendary lineup. They used to scream at each other and also to leave practice.
Yeah,
they were leaving a lot of practice. Like you played against them, and at some point, sorry.
PC crash.
Yeah, I need to go. And it happened like a lot of times. But I think for what you say for the young generation, like the young, when you're a bit younger, it's harder to speak about those things. But for example, in my team, like we have like Flamesy is pretty young, but he's really good at it. He's really honest. Or like when he feels something, he's just really honest. One of the most honest guy I know as well is Magisk.
Okay.
Maybe too much sometimes. If there is a small thing, but it's really good because then there is no bad thing in the back of his head.
Sure.
He's always saying what he thinks. Sometimes it's a bit annoying because you're like, bro, it's nothing. Like, calm down. But otherwise, I think it's really good because I think for him, he's gonna be able to perform if he feels right with himself and right with the team. I think it's gonna be a lot easier. And I think like having those talks are needed and being open and sometimes even as IGL, even if I'm 31, and sometimes it's not easy to start those conversations, but you have to. And the sure thing is us, I think as IGL, we need to also, I would say, lead by example also outside of the server in the talks, like being honest first, like saying, yeah. Or me, what I'm trying to do is just being really honest in the term, like, yeah, today I fucked up. I really fucked up.
Taking accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you start to do that, the other will like, okay, our captain is just picking out and just saying that, yeah, it just says it's own fault that we lost the game. So I can also do things because I think something that I don't know for the others, but from my perspective, as an IGL, if you hear like your teammates saying just like my bad in the round, and I wish that more, no one does that. No one does just my bad, because if he says my bad, then I'm like, okay, it's been maybe it was the good call, but he fucked up, and
sure.
There is never a my bad. Like I'm not asking a my bad every round, but just guys. And I told when we watched the game, I'm like, bro, tell me this. It's fine. I won't blame you, but just tell me my bad.
Yeah.
Actually, can jump on that quickly. Like I've had plenty of coaches, right, and plenty of like other people in the team, and I've noticed that once you have a coach who calls out players, it's like the dream come true.
Really?
Yes, because as an IGL for many teams, it's like if you're playing with them 24/7, right, and if you're the guy who is like, as you said, like someone does a mistake or didn't remember the strat or whatever, and you're always the guy who's like telling them, like, can you please remember this smoke or this detail on this round or whatever?
Can you please?
It's like,
Not like that.
Exactly. Once you say it, like 100 times, like they start to like feel this tension, like
yeah.
They're not really reminding you of strats. Like you remember everything, kinda. Like you're creating them, or like you have the vision to how you play the game differently. Like you remember all the small details. So then they start building this tension, and it can be like really tough, like down the line in like long periods of time or whatever discussions you might have. So when a coach is doing it, it's kind of like giving you some leverage, because then you're like playing with them. You need to remember all the small things, and then you hear your coach calling people out or reminding about stuff. Like it's way easier for you to have a discussion after, because you're not telling them 1,000 times,
sure.
From small things.
Yeah, you're not the bad guy.
Yes,
yeah.
And I've had plenty of coaches, and that's why I can relate to it. Like it's always a different relationship with a different coach, and you just need to see how he works and like what you need to do to fill the shoes, kinda. But I noticed that a lot of coaches, like I don't want to say it in too bad way, but once you get a coach that is actually doing all these small details, you understand that why weren't the other coaches doing it? Because it's kind of like, I would say bare minimum. Like if I ever gonna be a coach, like I'm for sure gonna say it, because I know for the IGL it's gonna help him a lot. Like if you're backing him up. So that's like my vision at least.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
I used to have the conversation with one of my coach. I didn't have many. I have only two. So really, it's,
everyone can have a guess.
Head or tail.
Back to this guy.
And to say that I needed more help in that regards, because if I'm the only one repeating the things, it's it gets annoying also
and
for yourself.
Yes.
Just for yourself. Like
exactly.
I'm like, bro, it's been 15 times I tell you this smoke is missed. So at some point you need to do something. Or for me, for example, is the remembering of the strats. That's the thing that gets me crazy. Imagine you work on the morning, you do 2 hours theory, they all do a nice weekend, and you worked on the server, you do a new thing, you're happy, you show them, you try all the strats, they didn't write it down, you start practice, you call a strat, what do I do? For fuck's sake.
Surely that's not still happening today. The year 2024, come on now.
It does.
Say Rain doesn't have a playbook. Everyone else on our team has playbook. He's winging it.
I don't know.
And it's actually impressive how much.
He's the best winger.
But I know him that much when he says, I say, can you smoke this? And he says, yeah. And he says like this. I know it's 90% chance he knows it. But or he does this like, Finn, I have brain fart, what I'm doing. But he comes instant with it. But it's like, you can see like sometimes. But it's also good because he's that older generation that he believed in intuition, and if you can't remember it, then you are not time to look at the book during the round, and you're losing focus. So, but you need to be very mentally in it for it to be a problem. I accepted the flaw of it when he does it, but also knowing he is adjusting sometimes on the fly to what he believes is right. So, I mean, some of the many rounds he's doing some of the same tendencies, so to say, right? So, but it's funny sometimes. We are calling him the best winger in the world because he wings a lot of things in the game. And I mean, I also think that's why he was one of the best interpreters for so many years, because he just plays off intuition, like one-to-one.
Dupree is a lot like that as well.
Yeah, and I think
he's a lot like that, like just intuition.
Yeah, and if you have the system in your head and it works and it doesn't destroy too much overall,
that was hard for me at the beginning, because I didn't have any player playing like that before in the French teams, like someone being on intuition like all the time. And at the beginning for me that was tough. Yeah, that's one of the tough things.
I play with him for a few years now, so I just know.
Yeah, no, it's easy.
I know when he's in the zone, I'm like, okay, don't touch him. He will do everything. When he's a little off, I'm like, okay, time to micromanage a bit over here, to set him up better. So I think it comes down to the relationship. Me and him played also for 6 years, right? So, but he's always getting mocked by the other guys. Yeah, where's your strat book, Hovey? You can't remember, Hovey? Huh?
He gets away with it because he's an older guy, right? So,
yeah, but also he's a smooth operator, no? He's always like laughing and smiling at you. That's fine, I got it.
All right. Would any of that stand in your team? Would Blade allow that? I feel like you guys are going out there with a big stack of notes every time.
They will get fucked, mate.
The thing is kinda that like everything is kind of like handed to you by Blade.
Okay.
And then you need to remember it. That's the thing. But like I've been in other teams, like I think Apex is like saying about it, like where you like everyone individually does everything, right? But in us, like I don't want to dive into too many details, but it's more like we're obviously going through everything and doing everything, but it's like people can do their individual stuff if they want, but also like there is a general playbook that you need to remember, kind of. So that's the thing.
But for example, some players don't have a strat book. They don't have their playbook.
Well, I imagine Xray will probably be.
No, he doesn't, of course.
Yeah.
He's always
no, but sometimes I was coding something on. And sometimes I'm coding something on FaceTime, and we made fun of that long ago. And it's Mirage, and I'm looking at my radar. I'm waiting, and I see him going on the wrong way. I'm like, no, it's this. He's like, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
That's
sake, you're good, but fuck's sake, know the strats, mate.
Same, I'll say, Hovey? Yeah, what's wrong? Come here. My bad.
1 second, I'll be right there.
Yeah. I just want to do this a little bit over here, then I'll come.
I prefer at least they're asking. Just ask at least, please.
Yeah, it just does make freeze time.
What's the pistol already? I remember a lot of time we have a playbook. We are in the game, and I can tournament. And what pistol we do already? I'm like, please. I mean,
we spoke about it this morning.
Exactly.
We've been over this.
I just said it like 3 minutes before in the huddle.
Halftime break. Yeah, we've
after the round, you're just waiting for the my bad. Like, please say my bad. And it doesn't remember.
Have to wait until the walkthrough.
What's worse though, like getting someone to admit that they made a mistake is one thing, but I used to hate it when we lost a round and someone would go, I just missed a shot. I was like, well, I can't make you hit the shot. Like, that would frustrate me.
I actually think that's really good to know as an IGL, because if you actually had the kill, let's say you do a fake and you tried to kill one at the side, you know you had the timing, but you actually missed the shot, meaning that the round was played right.
Yeah, exactly.
But if they're actually just holding, two guys looking at you, and you just get wrecked, the difference between me knowing what to call next is very important.
I agree with that.
Because knowing that you had the kill in the rotation or whatever, that would be key to turn around the round.
Okay.
Especially when it's 5 alive, because when you, let's say it's 3 and 3, I can see everything if I'm not alive. Mostly I'm not alive in that moment. So I can see what's going on, the communication, and how we're playing each other. But in a 5 on 5, I can only see the radar and the information that's relayed. And knowing that you had a kill makes a key difference from me building up to the next call.
Okay.
But also new players that were saying that 24/7. I think Scream, of course, said, I missed, I just missed. Oh, you didn't miss. You just shot one bullet. You went up to you. You missed one bullet, but that's not a miss, mate. Yeah, so you also have this tendency of players just saying, I missed the shots, but you didn't actually miss it. It's just like you're saying, I would say.
Yeah, okay.
I fully agree, actually, because I think there's like the same topic, kind of like you might walk into a stack on the T side and you might win the round, but in your own head you're thinking like, they fully outplayed us, but we just won the round, right?
And every
nice call.
You know, all the casters and everyone is like, oh, you got away with this, like whatever it is. But at the same time, then you lose a round. You made a really good call on, and you, like your side player gets the timing, and as we spoke, like loses the duel that's gonna win the round. And then the casters are going like,
this looks bad.
What a weird call. And you're thinking to yourself like, this was actually...
He's alone, mate. He's alone. He just did 3 kills, mate.
You know, the bad call was when he walked into a stack and just managed to win it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like true. Sometimes we die 1-1-1, and it's like, what the fuck is Face doing? But in the theory, it's 3-1-1 duels.
Sure.
And some of them is not 50-50. It's some advantage for us. And it's like, it looks really bad. When I watch the game, like, it looks really bad from outside, what the plan is. But there's like, the key details is in the duels, and I think often that's really hard to see when the game is live from casters and viewers, that there is one duel that the call is about, and if that duel might turn one away, you can react on it, and if you win the duel, the round is over, but if you lose, the information you gained might be really valuable to what you planned.
Sure.
And I think that's very hard to see from outside sometimes.
Sure. Well,
the Xray throws things off so much as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I love watching clutches when the Xray is off.
Yeah.
It makes it so much more like, I don't know, just CS-like.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm watching rounds like with the Xray on, sometimes I understand what the team is calling, but for the viewer it might look so dumb, like if the CTs are just making a good plan or whatever, but the Xray just throws it off so much.
Yeah, they think we see it, you know?
Yeah.
We see through the wall, it's there, let's go together.
Yeah.
Of course we don't know, like, and that's also, I agree with that when you have the Xray, you might think, what the fuck is this? Why did it? But we have no idea. The guy is there, mate. Yeah, I mean, we're not watching through walls.
With the setup they've got here, I've been just, when I'm not casting, I'll go and sit above the teams when they're playing, and I just watch the one team perspective, which is how we used to watch at old school LANs, right? You go and sit, and you listen, and you piece the round together based off of those 5 perspectives, and that was sick because you could understand what they were trying to do, and I get a bit of that vibe here, which is really nice. But you've actually led me to a question I wanted to ask, which is great, is for you guys, what are the public or even like caster or analyst or any misconceptions that you guys see pretty common or think exist out there of the way that you guys are doing your job or the way that Counter-Strike is played? Like, are there any common misconceptions about it that, you know, bother you guys? Or
I think I'm really good to just throw a wall up when it comes to social media and stuff like that. I don't think
it's really, anyway, for as we said about the things before, but for any casters, any analysts, it's really hard to understand what's really happening. Like what we really want, just like a single round, just a round. It's really hard to understand what we really want, because as we said, a kill might fuck up everything, a mistake might fuck up everything, and it looks so bad, you know. So I think it's really rough for people around to really understand what's happening. So for me, I think it's.
There's just so many variations of what you guys could possibly be doing within a round, though, right?
I mean, the only 100% thing you know as a viewer is like he should have that kill or not.
Sure.
The rest is a movement or communication error. When you see people running with a knife, dying to someone, there's why it doesn't expect it. Probably because someone said no one can be there. You know, that kind of things. Is sometimes. Like, people don't think the other way. For sure, they should know one is dead. No, if it wasn't communicated at the right time, it was not. I think we had a scenario where one guy was in practice and he came heaven, and I got the information 2 seconds before there can be one heaven, and I'm like, turn around and he's heaven already. That's not how it should work. Yeah. So communication sometimes can slip in that scenario where I believe the casters only think like it should for sure be communicated, but was it not, right? And that's the thing, you will never know as a caster or viewer that what was actually said in the moment. And that's what I mean, the only 100% thing you know, that should have been a kill, that should have been a round conversion. The rest is like, you always have to
Or missing nades as well. The missing nades as well, I think it can be a big thing. I remember the Stewie in Dallas that missed like the wall of smoke outside like 10 times.
Yeah, that's also easy to see.
Yeah, exactly, that's the only thing.
On purpose.
Yeah, sometimes we try and sell it.
Yeah, I thought sometimes Furia, the smoke line they did with art, there must have been a point with it because they never hit.
Yeah.
So
I don't know about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of moments as well, like in clutches or like random scenarios where there is like information that someone might have heard wrong or seen wrong, like both back lane.
Yeah.
And then, you know, caster is saying, oh, but why is he not worried about ramp? And it's like, you know, the reason is that someone gave wrong information. It's like, or on a clutch, like someone is peeking and the other guy is not trading, and it's like, oh, but why is he not trading? But maybe the guy who was peeking didn't say that he's gonna peek.
Sure.
You know, like all these small details, and it's a lot of comes down to communication. To be honest, like that's the number one thing in like I think every team I've been on like fully focuses on like communication, number one thing. And a lot of the times when I'm watching a game like, and you see a moment like this, you think to yourself like, what actually happened? Like maybe someone didn't communicate, maybe it was fake info. Like before I judge the guy who's clutching, or before I judge, you know, how they lost this round. A lot of the times it's something like really marginal that happens.
The only one that I know that sometimes, I don't know, I say we had a bad information, but the player doesn't know, but he still looks at Zau. Sometimes we say 2 main, but he's still looking behind in case 1, you know, you're like...
2 main doesn't make sense.
No, it's a bit like that, I think. Just he has such a good individual overview that he's like, nope.
You should try to say 6 main. No, 1 on the heaven for sure.
Okay.
It already happened, so wrong information, but we're still looking at the right place. I'm like, okay, mate.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
He doesn't trust,
I tried to fool you.
He trusts himself more than information. That's
he does it. That's for sure he does. And thanks, he does.
In his own little world, winning the rounds. Okay, all right. So nothing too crazy as far as the misconceptions are concerned, but you're just highlighting that a lot is going on that is going to be missed by the viewer just by the nature of the game.
Exactly.
Just going to say one more thing. Like obviously it's the thing that we're playing at the very top, and we know how CS is, like how the preparation is nowadays, how the anti-strat is nowadays. Like you need to think about what rounds you were doing the last game, and maybe that's how you base some rounds on the next game. You know what I mean? It's like a lot more goes into it than 2018 when I remember playing with Ents. I think it was way more on the fly stuff and feeling based.
Only Australis was doing that. Like the anti-strat, most likely. I mean,
yes,
they
most
were the
likely. But what I'm saying is that a lot of the times, some of these people who is casting or something like haven't really been there. And there's been a couple ex-pros. Like for example, now I've seen Bubski is his nickname. He's doing some good content on Twitter, for example, or breaking down rounds. And I could see that he was a part of like a really good team, because he's kind of like taking into consideration a lot of different things, like even what's coming from the coach during a timeout or whatever it is. And it's like nice to see some kind of insight like that, because it's pretty rare that someone who's been on tier 1 since like maybe 4 years is like casting, you know? Also Karrigan was there on the desk, like maybe
last year.
Yeah, I didn't watch too much about the analysis, but all I'm saying is that you can usually see when someone has kind of like been there. And they usually come up with something that makes sense.
Yeah, you're talking about one of the things like the evolution of the game and the anti-strat today, right? You've seen all of it. You've also been there throughout the evolution. But back when I was playing, it was set strats, right?
Thanks God, because I was playing with Happy and we were doing 4-1 every round. So thanks God they were non
and
strat.
Somehow you guys still won it, even though everyone knew that Happy was on the other side of the map. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, we were fucking dumb.
Yeah, but it worked.
Yeah, but we were still dumb.
We were trading when you got into Society.
Yeah, we had to trade. And obviously in the 4 I was the first. So they know I was coming.
But that's it. There's been a lot of evolutions of the game over the last decade, right? And I think there's been a couple, like when Luminosity/SK, a lot of mid-round stuff, or at least a lot of conversations that they were having of theory, because they couldn't play high-level CS being in America, right? So they had to have a lot more conversations. Then they brought that, and they were quite good at the mid-round choices that they were making. Then Astralis, I think, with the big one, utility as well as the anti, right? Those are the two keys.
Individual as well.
Yeah, that helps.
They were all 5 really hot.
But since then, it's kind of taken off on steroids because everybody's looking at the game in the way they did, and everybody's now refining those details, right? Yeah. So the evolution from 2018 to 2024, we're talking about a 6-year period of time. But I don't know how much detail you guys can go into regarding this, because I don't want you to give away your trade secrets and stuff, but like the preparation and the ante that we're talking about, people are watching from series to series, but you guys are only watching like your games and who your opponent's going to be, right? As a viewer, you're just watching whatever Counter-Strike is on. But you guys are looking at this, like the layers on layers on layers of what we did here, what this team did in their last 3 matches. And this feels like from your focus compared to the viewer focus, it's a completely different ballpark, of course, right? So I don't even know where to start this question regarding the like anti-strat or the prep for a match, because I don't know what you would be willing to share with me and the viewers. I
think anyway nowadays, how I see things from the opponent and in general, I think people are just a mix between anti-stratting the opposite team and also trying to change things by themselves on the game. So just to not get anti-strat that much. So just sometimes changing ideas of like you never do fakes, you're gonna do fake in the next one, etc. I think that's how I see things.
What, from map to map, like series to series? Sorry.
Yeah, from just a map to map. Not just a map to map. You the way like sometimes you just watch a team on Mirage and you watch 3 out of the last demo, and most of the time the team will not play the same way. I mean, I remember it's a good example of taking a heroic with Arcadian back then, Stone, Yabi. You knew that they would change completely the playstyle. So I didn't like preparing against them because I knew that they would change like most of the thing. Most likely at the beginning of the other side, because of course at some point you need to come back to your basics and you need to play your game. But yeah, so some teams were like, we were just like, okay, we don't need to prepare much. Same when you play the same opponent a lot of time. When we play the phase a lot of times on Nuke, we're like, yeah, let's just have a plan ourselves, but let's not look too much into them, because anyway it's not gonna be the same one. So like, why would
next time same game plan?
Exactly. Why would we like just focusing too much on the opponent? You know? I think that's also why some tier 2 teams are a bit still in tier 2, or because they keep like playing the same way, because it's also why they arrived there. Like that's why they rise up to the top. It's by playing their style. Okay. So I think that's also the rough thing, is that to be able to play, when you're a tier 1 team, to play like a lot different styles, just to not get caught by the opponent.
Okay. I think actually, when I think back to like 2014-15, there was a clear philosophy that every team did. So every time there was a team that became number 1, everybody copycat from exactly how they played to how they became number 1. I remember playing those teams from 14 to 18. It felt like no team had their own philosophy, as long as they moved their philosophy a lot to become the same as number 1. So when Astralis became number 1, everybody adapted to that. When Fnatic was number 1, everybody adapted to that. When Luminosity came, they had a very specific way of taking map control, but they had always different endings in the way they ended on site. So when we were studying them, I found out, okay, the way they played, they set up Coursera in the last 30-40 seconds with a set ending. It might look different from the beginning of the round. And when a few months later, I see more and more teams playing like them, where they discuss the endings instead of the build-up. And I think nowadays, the last few years, it feels like what I always tried to do is like having a kind of a structure, but also have the explosive Counter-Strike. Because I think now, when you have the mix between the structure and explosive, you can always adapt your game plan, like Dan says, to who you're facing. Are you going to beat them by the structure? Are you going to be beating VP by playing structure CS? I think they are one of the best in the world to play the slow pace, controlled, and doing the things their way, right? So I always believe that's the way you can always play different styles, and there you can also prepare your antis and what kind of style you want to do, but still have the basic of your philosophy and the way you view Counter-Strike, but adapting slightly a bit, because it becomes a mind game. And I think for me, over time, has been the journey as a team is always in one direction. But sometimes, when a game plan works during tournaments, you move too much to explosive counter-strike. Sometimes you play too slow, and you kind of get off the balance where you want to be able to adapt during the game or during a tournament.
Okay.
And I think that's what I've seen the last few years when I play. I don't see a style one-to-one the same every time I play the team.
It's
when
not possible.
guys, when we play Vitality, there is now a mix in the styles that they approach the game from 1 week to 4 weeks later. And it's not because they changed their philosophy within 4 weeks. It's just the adaptation they believe is right moment to come with the game plan. And I think that's the biggest difference from the last few years to many years ago. The game plan people do is actually more advanced and more reliable, what they want to change, specific details of the game. And that's what I think is very interesting now as a leader. It's like, how far do you go with your game plan, focusing on yourself, and how much do you adapt and believe in what they're going to do? And it's very dangerous, because within IEM 12 now, you don't have time to adapt. You're down 8-0, and now you adapt, and everyone in this table knows the adaptation is coming at some point from the other leader. But at that point, you're always a step behind. And I think with IEM 15, you had more time to play around with the beginning of the game and faking some signals to then change the style later in the half.
Yeah, you had more time to adapt. Now it just goes so quick.
Yeah,
like you're 7-0 down, and you're like, oh, I played 3 by rounds, and we got rocked on the left, and that's.
Now we're gonna execute. Super obvious.
Yeah, actually, as a leader, I don't like it at all.
I don't like it.
Like the fact that a lot of the times it's like 2 pistols combined with, like, if the game is 3-1. And you break their money again as T. I just feel like, if you're on the receiving end, it's like you're not into the game plan yet even. Like, you're just playing these random rounds,
Exactly.
Yeah, look at all the rounds. Like, don't have time for that. Don't have time. One chance left.
You didn't have time. Sometimes you didn't have time. Like, your first buy run is the 6th run. Like the real first, buy run against buy run, full buy run. Like they have AVP, they have like at some point they have a 2 MP9, 3 M4. You're like, okay, I can't call that. It's too dangerous. But this, maybe this. But yeah, this ML12 is a bit shaky.
It feels like it's kind of put a bit more importance on, I don't want to say saving, like, but doing more with the limited stuff you have, like having more moves around like 1 or 2 save rifles, or having like, and if you don't stick the landing on that move or that idea, then the round's over, right? So it feels like there's a lot more chances that you have to take with these saved guns in MR12 at the moment, right? And if you can put, because I think Valve wanted it to be, anything can kind of be viable if you use it in the right way and it works out for you. Obviously, it needs to be a bit of chance, right? But we see a lot of these rounds getting won with the lower buys or with the saved guns. But from a tactical standpoint for you guys, it must be annoying, because those type of rounds you have less control over.
Yeah, it's most likely individual, because you're not gonna call all the time something like fast or like together. You have to do map control at some point. So the players have a responsibility to be able to use a bit more nades, or to be more like refragging, because they have the advantage. We have the advantage on them, and that's really like frustrating when you're IGL to lose these runs, because that's the one you have the less control in some point, because sometimes you will just call an Inferno abs pop and it's gonna work because they're in B stack or whatever, because you have to, but you can't do abs pop every round, and you can't do B execute fast as well, because they might be 4. So you need also to get some information at some point in the map, but it relies on your players, because in full buy rounds it's fine if they get first kill, they try something. But in this round, it's more like we need to play it more safe, and I think that's one. Those ones are pretty frustrating when you lose against one weapon, and just because, we as a individual, someone fucked up in some ways because he didn't like use enough nades, or he just picked alone, and then it just like
snowballs.
It's snowballing, and then you lose the round, and then it fuck you the whole side, because you get back to really bad money, and you have to force by a 1.4, and what can I call, mate? We have 2 smokes and 1 flash. Yeah. I mean, and then and then you have a fucking bad T side.
When you see this one in 1.7, 1.4, you just see Deagle armor A1, and then you're IGL. No armor, just click flash smoke.
Just search.
But nowadays, I tell them at least more. They can, because back then on CSGO at least they couldn't like sell.
Yes.
Now they can, so I'm like, please, you will get a small Kevlar and you will get the smoke for me. Thank you.
1.6 was best because people lied about money. They had just enough not to drop an AK or something, and then they bought us a little extra.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay, so with this type of conversation, because I was going to ask to get you guys to give your take on like what the meta is, but
There's no meta.
Exactly,
no
like
meta
that's
right now.
There is no meta.
which is a crazy thing to say, right?
But it's been a while. I think there is no meta. At some point, since the anti-strat is, I mean, since everyone has a coach, assistant coach, analyst, and everyone is preparing so much on the game, there is no meta. Like, I would say also, like, teams' identity are a bit, like, close to each other nowadays.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap.
No, like the identities,
Exactly.
we all play a bit slow, we all play a bit fast. Except, that's what actually, like actually said. VP play less of that, and that's why
they're moving towards the same meta as everyone else.
You need to be able to, like, also big still doing a bit of the big things, but they do. You can't do one style too much anyway nowadays.
No.
You can't be. That's exactly what happened for us in 2022 because I remember in the French team I was playing really explosive. I had like people that couldn't. The young guys were really bad, I would say, at doing map controls. So I had to play a bit more stack, a bit more fast, or etc. And it worked well for us. And then it was also my identity. And I started with the dance. We tried to play like that. It was horrible, horrible, because also the Australian style was a lot different, and that was horrible for a long time. But that's what I believed. But the whole, like, I called like the 3 months, it didn't work. People asked me to change. I tried, and then at the beginning of 2023, I said, hey, "Guys, fuck! I need to call fast. We play slow every once." I felt like we were VP, but at least they were dangerous. We were not dangerous.
Yeah.
We were really bad on map control and everything. So at some point, I was like, "Mate, we need to be able to change." And then what made us change is I remember when we pick up Jax for EPL, and we did this comeback against you guys on.
That was
Nobis.
crazy. That game was insane. That was the most fun cast we ever did because we came into the second half being like, the comeback is on. Like we were joking because we thought there was no way in the world you guys would bring that back.
We had a few practice after that, but the same happened.
No way.
Yeah, they started City. They won 2 rounds. They won GG.
I remember what 41 on the other side. I was like, guys, this is like supposed to be.
That was so. And at that tournament, I decided myself to be like, okay, we play with Jax. We have a stand-in. We had 2 days of practice. I'm like, Jax is really good at running. It's his best quality. It's just to know what to do and just running. He has like he was 30 years old, but his aim is like he's 20. He's a bit like crazy, and I just like, okay, we're gonna play everyone fast. I'm like, let's try that. I said to Zonik, and it worked.
Yeah.
We topped the group, etc. And I also showed Dupree at some point. I said, you see, I mean, I don't ask you to do that, but that's what I need. I need us to be able to play fast. And whenever we played faster again, that's why we became better. Because nowadays it's not possible to just play one side. Otherwise, you just you get fucked.
I think that's the thing about there's so much anti. If you play too slow,
people
no matter how you play slow too much, there's gonna be way more tendencies than faking some of the early information, right? So if you find a balance between that, playing slow and fast, and you build up tendencies constantly, I think that's the best way. And it's always, for me, it's always keeping track of what I've done, what I've called previous games, right? Watching what we played against these guys last time, how to adapt. Do I want to play some of the same style? Do I want to change much? Because some of the rounds we should have won on paper, right? It's always the classic one as an ideal. We should have won that, but it's not that easy. But sometimes you just see the idea behind the round supposed to put us in a good position, right? And the thing is, like, I think with the MR12, I feel like some of them visually on the CT sides, they are doing initiative, like intuition call that wasn't kind of planned. And I think that's where the meta is moving a bit. Like, people are in a structured way of playing, but then they go in and just play they just have the freedom to take a decision right there on the fly. Where, let's say, go back to Heroic, they had a very specific CT side style. And now I feel like people do it a little bit, but they don't overdo it because now it's easy to counter. Yeah. You know how to stop the Heroic pushes. You just have to make sure you're not committed with a bump, right? So you want to keep the bomb in the middle. And I think that's where when people do it, sometimes you don't know if it's the full Heroic with overstacking, or is it only him moving, you know. I love it because it just challenges you so much in the round. You have to picture it together so fast, and that's why I love CS, because for every month, the meta is changing without people knowing. It's only once the team has sit on the throne for a long time and really just like annihilated every single opposition they play, where we're like, okay, what are these guys doing constantly? That's good, you know. But else we look at all the teams constantly. I look how they're winning, how they're playing, why they're losing against this team, winning against this team, right? And sometimes details, sometimes it's just like you see they had a good read on what the enemy was doing. And I think That's why Counter-Strike is fascinating. That's why I keep playing, because I think it's so interesting to be in the moment, but also preparing for the moment that you expect to happen. And honestly, it never expects as I think it will in the game, but it's more like me game plan and anti-stress as a template. Like, this is how I think it will go, but sometimes the rounds I put into the template will not fit right now here in the moment because of the enemy's adaptation or the way the game is going.
When you see, for example, like big in the online era, they were really good. And they were, big are also known to use a lot of nades, you know. They will never come without nades, you know. But nowadays, you play against them, you just use utility when you see utility. Because if you don't see utility, they won't come. So they come and you still have 5 smokes at 50 seconds and they fucked. And that's the way that people were not good enough back then to the way they were reacting to the rounds. And now that, it won't happen. If a team is playing full slow, people will be so good. Like, you see on the map, they will use no nades and wait for you. And then you come, you try to execute a bit and you're fucked. So that's, that's as Finn said, that's the really challenging thing nowadays to be able to know what exactly is going to happen, because you can, like, people are just really smart nowadays that say, sometimes they're just going to stack, sometimes they're just going to retake 3 guys, sometimes it's going to be on the open. It's so many variations.
Yeah.
You can't expect everything. It's now that you need to make a gamble in some ways that this won't happen, and if it happens, GG, because you can't control it.
I swear to God, when I was 15, it was easy to call. I didn't have to prep. I think I had everything mapped out. But the CT sides, the way people playing CT sides now, I feel like sometimes the goal is only to confuse the IGL on T side. But sometimes when I think I look at our CT side, I'm like, this is easy for the IGL. He's getting exactly what he needs. Exactly what he's doing in his nades. He's not getting countered. It's this easy scenario as an IGL to figure out the setup we have now. Where I feel like sometimes when I'm IGL, the way the people are masking on CT side, they're making me think. And you don't want to think when you're IGL. You just want to be in the moment. You see what's happening. You understand what the call is. But sometimes the seeds are so good now, they make you question what is open here now. And that's what I feel like, bro, you have to... Sometimes I'll play the game, I'm like, I had to question myself in the game and still sound strong in what I believe is right. But I know this might be a stack, you know, because I have no idea.
Especially with the nade dropping. Like, when people actually understood what it enables, like very top teams, that's when it got confusing sometimes. Because one player can fully, basically he can fake that it's 2 players, or 2 players can act like they are, you know, Inferno B, for example. They're always thinking, is this guy faking that, like, he's alone, or is he playing dumb, so we go there because we think he's alone, and there are 3 guys.
The guy's doing 2 times retake set nades, but they're 3B.
Yes.
It's the same guy throwing them.
Exactly.
The guy in B, the guy in banana saying, I think it's only 1 B fin. Okay, we go there, 3. Huh? There was a setup the whole time to bait you in, and that's where we talk about the information relate, right? That it's so hard as an IGL nowadays to rely on teammates' information. Because we as an IGLs, we see a lot of demos, we scroll through a lot of rounds, so it's like memorize like how it, because you can't explain everything in anti. There's sometimes there's going to be 17 setups. You're not going to write them. You're going to write the most likely used by them. But then when you play them, you don't see the setups you had in anti. But as an IGL, you saw them like happening in some single moments, and that's why I believe it's like that's why sometimes you just have to go with a fly in the call. Even though sometimes you just go, take this, go B. I don't care what the fuck happens on the map. Oh, sorry.
No,
we just go there and we execute. I don't care if they're 3 guys. If you execute good, we win. You know, like so.
So faster stuff or more direct stuff removes the game a little bit. Like
depends. Sometimes they can have a start with 3 guys as well, and I think that it just you can't exactly know nowadays. No. Like the city side, you can't exactly know. T side it's a bit easier, but on the city side you can't know exactly what happens. I take the example of back then. I mean, when I started calling, one thing that was really that people like to do on Mirage. Like they just did the connector smoke, but they were playing like 3A, you know, so like 2 close ramp and 1 CT. But back then, no one was shooting window, and you knew what would happen. So I took my knife, I went window, and I went jungle, and we won the round all the time. But now, if people do that, you're like, maybe there will be 2 ladder waiting for you, or you can't know what's gonna happen. And that's why people are really good at and just faking like things in general and just not knowing. But yeah,
the level is like so high right now that from individuals you're expecting always to think about all these details. Like if you know on Mirage, if you want to push 2 ramp, like it's very basic that the CTs will try to mimic that you are fighting mid. So the ramp player makes a mistake, because if you have mid as T, you're instantly gonna say like they're not playing mid, and that your side player instantly understands what he needs to do. It's like the level has risen so high that I feel like when I connect to the server against top 20 teams or top 30 teams, they have 3 coach slots.
Yeah,
it's like 2 analysts and a coach, and you never know like how much are they gathering from all the games they play. And I don't know, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would join server and maybe they don't have a coach, you know? It's like the level has for sure risen in terms of preparation and how many people are watching, all these academy leagues and general managers and whatever. Like you have a lot of people behind the scenes who are also doing something.
Yeah.
You had also this team you played, like you knew you will kind of win because it was easy to call, easy to read, so easy. Nowadays, there is not like this really easy game like you like.
Especially with the Mark 12.
Yeah, you back then you were like, okay, we play them. It's just a book. Just read a book and you're like, okay, they will do smokes, okay. This strat guys, let's go 3 there. But nowadays you can't do that. You have no one that you can read like that.
Yeah,
it's not
like
possible.
The major in 2015 was like top 8, easy. Don't have to think about go there, chill in groups. Made Armar starts. I'm like, whoo. Exactly. 24 spots. Might get one, right? No, but it's like best of 1, Emma 12. Have been there a few times. 2-0, 2-2, last chance qualifier. Bro, nothing is easy nowadays. And I think I had a discussion with Philip. Like I kind of said, I think back in the days, like when we go top 8, it was open. It was very hard. But from top 8 to when you met the 16th team, the gap was falling big. Right, and upsets could happen. Yeah, the game was played on a high level in top 8, but now the floor of tier 2 is risen so high. They're playing much more than all the top teams. So when you think about, especially with CS2 coming out, they're playing double amount of officials than we do. Yeah. Meaning they're gaining way faster experience from official games. So once they get an offer to a tier 1 team, they are gonna like ultimate from Liquid. Right, I've never really heard about him, but he goes in and he shows a really good game for Liquid, right? So that just showcased that there's so much unknown talent right now in tier 2 that I think we're choosing tier 2 with some decent stats, he's gonna perform on a tier 1. And I don't think that was the case 5-6 years ago.
It wasn't. Like people were coming to tier 1 and it was like, what the fuck is
where am I?
Yeah, exactly.
You had the Kyojin and
yeah.
By the way, one thing I would like to mention, you were speaking about meta and all this stuff. Is one thing I still think, like it was a shock to me in 2018 when we made, like for example, Katowice, we were playing the playoffs. I realized like how the game changes once you play on stage. Okay. And that to me is the like nicest thing in the world when playing CS. Is like that like that's where the experience comes in my opinion. Because I feel like you can play a different game on stage. You know which rounds are actually like way better on stage than on studio. Like some rounds, I'm just saying like they're like you can't play this round on studio, for example, on Nuke. There are many rounds you can do on stage that just become OP, like insane in terms of like how hard it is to hear sounds, basically. Like that's in Nuke. If as soon as you go down secret stairs, you don't hear anything. Like if you're on stage and there's a lot of bass and everything, if they're running lower, you might at one point realize, they're lab already.
I think the lab guys, the windows, the side boys, the rotation maybe.
So basically that I think is where, because we were speaking now, like everyone can upset and all these different things, but I think on stage, or like on playoffs and on stage, I think the game is a bit different and I think experience comes in handy. I'm not saying that no one can upset on stage or anything like that, but all I'm saying is that I think it's harder to perform the same way than on studio, especially for like a really young team or like a really fresh team compared to like a super veteran team.
Okay, I agree with that, but it's also I think for I don't know about Finn, but me, I mean, I've been playing for a long time as well. But when you get to stage, it's where you belong. That's where you also have the more energy yourself. Like that's where probably we will play our best individual games, because it's also like the place that, of course, you need the experience is like the key, but just like it's where you want to play.
Sure.
So it's so different for me that just playing on studio and just like like for folks, like just want to feel the crowd and everything. And that's also like the young, they're more scared, and you just where you want to be. Like it's the place you want to play.
We do talk about that a lot with the experienced teams, you guys especially, right? That's one of the tropes that we use when talking about phase and stage matches, and I think the good example of that with the head-to-heads is you guys versus Mouse, which is traditionally not on stage. You tend to, well, you got a couple. There's been a few, but you tend to take care of them in any environment, right? And they're quite an inexperienced team with what we're discussing right now. But I kind of want to pivot a little bit and talk about, like, you're saying there's no meta at the moment, but you have a quote-unquote easy time with Mouse, right? You take care of them. You with G2, even though I saw your interview about it and you're like, yeah, you probably think it's more for them than it is for you, like calling or whatever. But I don't know how many times you've beaten them now, but it's the core of Monacy, Nico and Hunter, and it's like 7 or 8 series or something like that, right? Like
it's crazy.
It's got to mean something, right?
Yeah. But I would say it's the thing, like at that point, I think it doesn't come down to how good each team are. It's just like CS is a confidence game at the end of the day. Like if your individuals are feeling confident, you're already like, getting there through the finish line, because they're feeling themselves on clutches or X on X situations, which are deciding the games usually. So for me, it's a lot of the times like that, like them with Mouse, us with G2, for example. It's like you're kind of step ahead in terms of overall confidence you're going into the game, or understanding that as soon as you get your foot into the game, you kind of remember you did it like 7 times, like, or obviously I'm saying 7 times right now, but it's just that, and they are gonna feel it. Oh, now they're making the comeback, or like when you have lost to a team for like, I don't know, 7 times and they win the first map on a series, you already feel a bit down, like, is it happening
again?
Yeah. Is that the same for you against Mouse? Because like they've said, like I think Exertion's like, we'll try and be confident again. Maybe not try, but we're going to like stand and bang with you guys, right? But it doesn't really seem to work for them.
I think it's the setting, right? I have learned pretty fast after the Boston Major that statistic doesn't matter on the day. Okay. We never lost a map to Cloud9 before the Boston Major final. 6 series in a row. Rain went out, said we're going to smack Cloud9 tomorrow. We didn't do it, right? And I think it's all about the setting. It's where your team is at and where the other team is at, right? So if you put Mouse up against FaZe right now, you'll probably say, but FaZe have won. But if you look at our recent results, you're like, but Mouse, this is the time Mouse beats FaZe. Because they're super confident in themselves and they believe this is the time to do it, right? And you will, in FaZe mentality, if you are not aware of it, how you're thinking, is like, okay, we beat Mouse, but we're not in the best shape, right? And there's what you talk about. If you already go into the game not confident in yourself, how are you going to be confident beating the enemy, right? Because that's a plus you have. I think that's always a plus. If you're confident in the team and you're playing a team you are like to playing against, it just builds up, like, believing in yourself and believing in the team that we're going to beat no matter what. And I think what we had in 2022 was I quickly realized that when we arrived in big tournaments in 2022, there was something clicking once you got in the bracket, like in the playoff. We didn't believe you could lose in the Cologne, in the Katowice, at the major. I mean, we played with a stand with JKS, but I just felt like something was cooking. Like in the way the people was acting, the way people was talking, the way people were moving on the server, listening to each other. You can, as an IGL, like for me at least, you
feel it in
you know the team so good. From first maybe like, I'm not calling the best, but we are just playing off each other so good and making sure we are catching up on my mistakes. And sometimes I will call super good, but the players are not playing good, but they will get there. And sometimes you just know it. Doing a tournament is brewing, and it's brewing for each game you play. And opposite way, when the team is not playing good, you can feel like how much do you push to fix buttons doing a tournament, because it's very dangerous to press too much on one thing doing a tournament, because it can screw other things. So to finish the thing about Miles, I think it depends on how the day is and how the game starts rolling, because if there's a time Mouse beats us, it should in theory be here, right?
That's what I say all the time when I see G2 NAVI. I'm like, okay, it's their time. G2.
Yeah, it has to happen
it's no, it's
right?
about no,
Yeah.
and
But
nope,
some
and
mental,
then of course, yeah. And the next one, you're like, it's no, still no.
Pick the new map now. Let's see.
Well, we might get a couple of these head-to-heads in the group stage coming up. You guys are going to start that tomorrow. You two are in the same group. You got Maus in your group. You've got VP in your group.
Yeah.
And you guys have got G2, Spirit, and Astralis. So it's pretty stacked. And then we'll see where all the play-in teams end up after today. Gentlemen, we've been going for almost an hour, I believe, so we need to pack this up. But last thing from all of you, I should have done this at the start. What is the definition of an in-game leader to you? Like what it, just because we use the term a lot, right? We say this guy's an in-game leader, but from people who are major winning in-game leaders, what is an in-game leader?
That's a good question.
If I describe one word, I'll just describe one word: passion.
Okay.
I think you cannot be an IGL without having huge passion for the game and how you think about the game, how you want to evolve. And it's also at self-reflective. If you're not self-reflective, you're never going to be a great IGL.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's tough, yeah. I think
one of the biggest things is you need to put yourself behind others, kinda. Mm-hmm. You can't, like, how I see it is that you're gonna be the last guy who's gonna feel comfortable, I feel like. Because if your individuals are telling you that they're not comfortable in this spot, they're not doing like how we approach the map, this map and that map, like if you're fixing others' problems before like trying to focus on your game and your way of seeing things and you calling the things, it's like you're always gonna be in this mess. So I feel like I always put myself last when it comes down to, like, I want people to feel comfortable, because if they feel comfortable and if they like to be on the server, they like to play their spot. Obviously there are outliers here and there, but they understand why it happens. But the point I'm making is that you need to sacrifice, and you need to understand it's for the greater good, and you also need to enjoy it. Like, you can't sacrifice and do all the shitty job, so to say, and not enjoy playing CS. Like, you need to have the passion still. But for me, the passion is like building something with the others and seeing others shine and whatever, and then you get the rewards later. Or what I mean about rewards, obviously trophies, but the thing is that you're like, it's really a different feeling when you win a game as a leader, when you know you made your job. Like you felt like you outplayed them, you felt like your preparation was good, you felt like you set this guy up. Like, it's a different feeling, and I feel like that's when you see the game also differently, because another individual might think like they played a good game when they have a sick highlight and they hold their side. Yeah. But I'm thinking about it way differently, and I love it. It's my job.
That's true that you can enjoy a game where you did 15-40.
Sure.
But you can still enjoy it because you did your job perfectly. I remember we played once, actually it was Maus, the first tournament of SUI last year. I think we beat them like 16-4, 16-4. And I think I did 15-28 or 15-30. But we, on both these sides, we won 13 rounds. So I'm like, yeah, you did your job right. But yeah, I don't know what I could add more, but I think a great IGL makes his player shine. That's why I said to them, I'm fine to not play well, but if you four play well, I know I'm gonna win. Most likely when you have a great firepower, you know that if you guys play at your best, I know I'm gonna get trophies. So I think it's about setting it up your teammates in the right way, and but also having your identity in some ways. It's a mix between those two things, and I don't know what I could add more.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.